Howdy, my name is Daryl Hutchinson and I'm here as a mountain man to try and tell you a little bit about the sign language. Now, what did I just say? I did say something, but it was silent, and I used sign language that was used on the plains and the mountains of the western frontier. This was used by natives to trade with each other, and eventually, of course, the white man could get in on this and trade with them as well. We've already talked about a lot of the trade items in the other video, but here we're going to show just a few signs so that you could trade with Native Americans if you so wanted to. Now, how do you learn these things? Well, it takes practice, and it takes somebody else probably that can speak your language and show you these things. But a lot of this trade language was simple. It was very easy. You could point at things. If you didn't know how to say the color black, for instance, you'd just find something and you'd point to say it like it's that color. This would be the sign for color, and then that. And you say, oh, okay, that's what he's talking about, the color black. There was also a grammar to this. There was various things that you could say, and you had to say them in the right order. So when I have a question, you shake your hand like this, like you're screwing in a light bulb in modern times. That means question. And then whatever you say afterwards, that's your question. So question. Beaver. Maybe you say, where's the beaver? Or maybe you could say, question, do you see the beaver? Or question, I want to trade beaver. Now, when they talked about beads like these, most of these beads were worn in, by some tribes as necklaces. And so maybe you could point to it, or you could point to somebody else who was wearing it, or you could make the sign. But you got to be careful, because if you make this sign for a necklace, it's also the sign for a tribe of Indians called the Sioux. And if you made this sign, somebody might think you're talking about the Lakota, which is the Sioux. Now, if you're talking about that other tribe and you're talking with enemies of that tribe, they might get really angry. So you kind of got to be careful when you're making these signs. What's the sign for a white man? Well, the white man wore hats all the time. At least the Americans did. And so this was the sign for hat. So when you saw somebody make this sign, whether they were wearing a hat or not, that meant that's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the white man. Now, what about the Spaniards? Well, the Spaniards were the first ones to show up, and they had really big beards. And so the symbol for beard meant for Spaniard or Mexican. Different tribes, of course, had different names because of the different things they did, or the different things that they were known for in battle. There are various different reasons. But this is how they used communication. They used these signs. So if you want to trade horses, this is a symbol of a rider on a horse. If you put a third finger out, that means the saddle. So you might want a question, I want to trade for saddles. Maybe you've got the saddles. They'll know who has what, because if they don't have saddles and you're talking about saddles, they'll say, oh, okay, and then they'll trade whatever they want for that saddle, if they want it. That's the thing about trade. You never know for sure who's going to want what, because, well, it's not like money. You can't just go to every different place and expect that it can be used. Some different tribes like certain colors of beads. Some different tribes didn't like other items. Sometimes they, favored arrowheads instead of guns, which would be kind of ridiculous, but you never know. There's all kinds of different things that could happen when you're trading, and so being able to speak this language, and speak it, is a very important thing to be able to do. So as a trader, you're looking for furs, because this is something that the white men wanted. They couldn't get access to, or very easily. All the natives wanted all these cool things that were made by the white man, and so they would trade these things back and forth. Prices would be established. If you wanted to come up with a price, like how many arrowheads for this buffalo hide, so you might say, well, how about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Okay, well, what happens if you got to get to 11? Well, you could flash 10 and then do 1. So that would be 10 plus 1. That would be 11. Well, what if you wanted to say 37? Well, okay, you could go 1, 2, 3, and then 5, 6, 7. So that would be how you would count. Okay, Mr. Genius, what about 100? Well, you take your hands at the 10, and then you'd move them to the side. That gives you an indication that this is not just 10, this is 100. So if you wanted to say 120, you could say 120. So they could count using this system as well. It was a pretty good system. In fact, a lot of American Sign Language has similar signs, not for everything, but for several things. For example, a woman's name in one of the tribes, her name was Buffalo Bird Woman. She was a Hidatsa. No, excuse me, she was captured by the Hidatsa. She was actually Shoshone. You know her by another name. Her name was Sacagawea. Now, Buffalo Bird Woman was her name. So, Buffalo, Bird, Woman, that being for the hair, long hair of the woman. So, if you know how to put these signs together, and you know what they stand for, if they stand for a person, or if they stand for items that you want to trade, this is how they could communicate. I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you want to know more, there's tons out there on Native American Sign Language. There's tons out there on information on the internet about trading, and the information's out there. All you got to do is let it in. Have a great day.